Professor Alec Guinness, Ch. CBE, the 2nd of April 1914, the 5th of August 2000, was an English actor. After an early career on the stage, he was featured in several of the Ealing Comedies, including the Ladykillers and Kind Hearts and Coronets, in which he played 8 different characters. He is also known for his 6 collaborations with David Lean, Herbert Pocket in Great Expectations, 1946, Fagin in Oliver Twist, 1948, Nicholson in The Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957, for which he won the Academy Award for Best Actor, Prince Faisal in Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, Yevgraf in Doctor Zhivago, 1965, and Professor Godbole in A Passage to India, 1984. He is also known for his portrayal of Obi-Wan Kenobi in George Lucas's original Star Wars trilogy, receiving a nomination for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Guinness was one of 3 major British actors, along with Laurence Olivier and John Gielgud, who successfully made the transition from Shakespearean theatre in their home country to Hollywood blockbusters immediately after the Second World War, as well as an Academy Award. He has also won a BAFTA Award, Golden Globe and a Tony Award. In 1959, he was knighted by Elizabeth II for services to the arts. He received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1960, received the Academy Honorary Award for Lifetime Achievement in 1980, and the BAFTA Academy Fellowship Award in 1989. Guinness was born at 155 Lauderdale Mansions South, Lauderdale Road, Maida Vale, as Alec Guinness de Cuff. His mother's maiden name was Agnes Cuff. She was born the 8th of December 1890 to Edward Cuff and Mary Ann Benfield. On Guinness's birth certificate, the space for the mother's name shows Agnes de Cuff. The space for the infant's name, where first names only are given, says Alec Guinness. The column for name and surname of father is blank. The identity of Guinness's father has never been officially confirmed, although it has been speculated that he may have been a member of the Anglo-Irish Guinness family. From 1875, under English law, when the birth of an illegitimate child was registered, the father's name could be entered on the certificate only if he were present and gave his consent. Guinness himself believed that his father was a Scottish banker, Andrew Geddes, 1861–1928. who paid for Guinness's public school, in American idiom, private school, education. Geddes occasionally visited Guinness and his mother, posing as an uncle. Guinness's mother later had a short marriage to a British soldier who had survived the Anglo-Irish War, but suffered from shell shock, or what today would likely be known as PTSD. His behavior was often erratic or even violent. Early career and war service. Alec Guinness, 1938. Guinness first worked writing advertising copy. His first job in the theatre was on his 20th birthday, while he was still a drama student, in the play Libel, which opened at the Old King's Theatre, Hammersmith, and then transferred to the Playhouse, where his status was raised from a walk-on to understudying 2 lines and his salary increased to £1 a week. He appeared at the Albury Theatre in 1936 at the age of 22. Playing the role of Osric in John Gielgud's successful production of Hamlet. 1936 also saw Guinness sign on with the Old Vic, where he was cast in a series of classic roles. In 1939 he took over for Michael Redgrave as Charleston in a roadshow production of Robert Ardrey's Thunder Rock. During his time at the Old Vic he worked with many actors and actresses who would become his friends and frequent co-stars in the future, including Gielgud, Becky Ashcroft, Anthony Quayle and Jack Hawkins. An early influence from afar was Stan Laurel, whom Guinness admired. Guinness continued playing Shakespearean roles throughout his career. In 1937 he played Merle in Richard II and Lorenzo in The Merchant of Venice under the direction of John Gielgud. He starred in a 1938 production of Hamlet which won him acclaim on both sides of the. He also appeared as Romeo in a production of Romeo and Juliet, 1939, Andrew Aguecheek in Twelfth Night, and as Exeter in Henry V in 1937, both opposite Laurence Olivier, and Ferdinand in The Tempest, opposite Gielgud as Prospero. In 1939, he adapted Great Expectations for the stage, playing Herbert Pocket. The play was a success. One of its viewers was a young British film editor, David Lean, who would later have Guinness reprise his role in Lean's 1946 film adaptation of the play. Guinness served in the Royal Navy Volunteer Reserve in World War II, serving first as a seaman in 1941 and being commissioned the following year. He commanded a landing craft taking part in the invasion of Sicily and Elba and later ferried supplies and agents to the Yugoslav partisans. During the war, he was granted leave to appear in the Broadway production of Terence Rattigan's play, Flare Path, about the RAF Bomber Command. Post-war stage career. Guinness returned to the Old Vic in 1946 and stayed until 1948, playing Abel Drugger in Ben Jonson's The Alchemist, the Fool and King Lear opposite Laurence Olivier in the title role, Dugitch in Cyrano de Bergerac opposite Ralph Richardson in the title role, and finally starring in an Old Vic production as Shakespeare's Richard II. After leaving the Old Vic, he played Eric Burling in J.B. Priestley's An Inspector Calls at the New Theatre in October 1946. He played the uninvited guest in the Broadway production of T.S. Eliot's The Cocktail Party, 1950, revived at the Edinburgh Festival in 1968. His third attempt at the title role of Hamlet, this time under his own direction at the New Theatre, 1951. Proved a major theatrical disaster. Invited by his friend Tyrone Guthrie to join the premiere season of the Stratford Festival of Canada, Guinness lived for a brief time in Stratford, Ontario. On 13 July 1953, Guinness spoke the first lines of the first play produced by the festival, Shakespeare's Richard III, Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this son of York. Guinness won a Tony Award for his Broadway performance as poet Dylan Thomas in Dylan. He next played the title role in Macbeth opposite Simone Signoret at the Royal Court Theatre in 1966, a conspicuous failure. Guinness made his final stage performance at the Comedy Theatre on 30 May 1989, in the play A Walk in the Woods. In all, between the 2nd of April 1934 and the 30th of May 1989, he played 77 parts in the theatre. Film career. In films, Guinness was initially associated mainly with the Ealing Comedies, and particularly for playing 8 different characters in Kind Hearts and Coronets. Other films from this period included The Lavender Hill Mob, The Ladykillers, and The Man in the White Suit. In 1952, director Ronald Neame cast Guinness in his first romantic lead role, opposite Petula Clark in The Card. In 1951, exhibitors voted him the most popular British star. Other notable film roles of this period included The Swan, 1956, with Grace Kelly, in her second-to-last film role, The Horse's Mouth, 1958, in which Guinness played the part of drunken painter Gully Jimson as well as writing the screenplay, for which he was nominated for an Academy Award. The lead in Carol Reed's Our Man in Havana, 1959, Marcus Aurelius in The Fall of the Roman Empire, 1964, The Quiller Memorandum, 1966, Marley's Ghost in Scrooge, 1970, Charles I in Cromwell, 1970, Pope Innocent III in Franco Zeffirelli's Brother Sun, Sister Moon, 1972, and the title role in Hitler, The Last 10 Days, 1973, which he considered his best film performance, though critics disagreed. Another role which is sometimes referred to as one which he considered his best, and is so considered by many critics, is that of Colonel Jock Sinclair in Tunes of Glory, 1960. Guinness also played the role of James Benson, the blind butler, in the 1976 Neil Simon film Murder by Death. David Lean. Guinness won particular acclaim for his work with director David Lean, which today is his best-known and most critically acclaimed work. After appearing in Lean's Great Expectations and Oliver Twist, he was given a starring role opposite William Holden in The Bridge on the River Kwai. For his performance as Colonel Nicholson, the unyielding British power commanding officer, Guinness won an Academy Award. Despite a difficult and often hostile relationship, Lean, referring to Guinness as my good luck charm, continued to cast Guinness in character roles in his later films, Arab leader Prince Faisal in Lawrence of Arabia, the title character's half-brother, Bolshevik leader Yevgraf, in Doctor Zhivago, and Indian mystic Professor Godbole in A Passage to India. He was also offered a role in Lean's Ryan's Daughter, 1970, but declined. At that time, Guinness had mistrusted Lean and considered the earlier close relationship as strained, although at his funeral, he recalled that the famed director had been charming and affable. Star Wars. Guinness's role as Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars trilogy, beginning in 1977, brought him worldwide recognition by a new generation, as well as Golden Globe and Academy Award nominations. In letters to his friends, Guinness described the film as fairy tale rubbish, but the film's sense of moral good, and the studio's doubling of his initial salary offer, appealed to him, and he agreed to take the part of Kenobi on the condition that he would not have to do any publicity to promote the film. He negotiated a deal for 2.25% of the gross royalties paid to the director, George Lucas, who received 1/5 of the box office takings. This made him very wealthy in his later life. Upon his first viewing of the film, Guinness wrote in his diary that it's a pretty staggering film as spectacle and technically brilliant, exciting, very noisy and warm-hearted. The battle scenes at the end go on for 5 minutes too long, I feel, and some of the dialogue is excruciating and much of it is lost in noise, but it remains a vivid experience. However, Guinness soon became unhappy with being identified with the part, and expressed dismay at the fan following that the Star Wars trilogy attracted. In the DVD commentary of the original Star Wars, director George Lucas says that Guinness was not happy with the script rewrite in which Obi-Wan is killed. However, Guinness said in a 1999 interview that it was actually his idea to kill off Obi-Wan, persuading Lucas that it would make him a stronger character, and that Lucas agreed to the idea. Guinness stated in the interview, "What I didn't tell Lucas was that I just couldn't go on speaking those bloody awful, banal lines. I'd had enough of the mumbo-jumbo." He went on to say that he shriveled up every time Star Wars was mentioned to him. Although Guinness disliked the fame that followed work he did not esteem, Lucas and fellow cast members Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Kenny Baker, Anthony Daniels and Carrie Fisher have spoken highly of his courtesy and professionalism, both on and off the set. Lucas credited him with inspiring cast and crew to work harder, saying that Guinness contributed significantly to achieving completion of the filming. Guinness was quoted as saying that the royalties he obtained from working on the films gave him no complaints. "Let me leave it by saying I can live for the rest of my life in the reasonably modest way I am now used to, that I have no debts and I can afford to refuse work that doesn't appeal to me." In his autobiography, Blessings in Disguise, Guinness tells an imaginary interviewer "Blessed be Star Wars," regarding the income it provided. In the final volume of the book A Positively Final Appearance, 1997, Guinness recounts grudgingly giving an autograph to a young fan who claimed to have watched Star Wars over 100 times, on the condition that the boy promised to stop watching the film, because, as Guinness told him, "This is going to be an ill effect on your life." The fan was stunned at first, but later thanked him, though some sources say it went differently. Guinness is quoted as saying, "Well, I said, do you think you could promise never to see Star Wars again?" He burst into tears. His mother drew herself up to an immense height. "What a dreadful thing to say to a child," she barked, and dragged the poor kid away. Maybe she was right, but I just hope the lad, now in his 30s, is not living in a fantasy world of second-hand, childish banalities. Guinness grew so tired of modern audiences apparently knowing him only for his role of Obi-Wan Kenobi that he would throw away the mail he received from Star Wars fans without reading it. Television appearances. From the 1970s, Guinness made regular television appearances in Britain, including the part of George Smiley in the serializations of 2 novels by John le Carre, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and Smiley's People. He twice won the British Academy Television Award for Best Actor for the roles, and le Carre was so impressed by Guinness's performance as Smiley that he based his characterization of Smiley in subsequent novels on Guinness. One of Guinness's last appearances was in the BBC drama Eskimo Day, 1996. Guinness won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1957 for his role in The Bridge on the River Kwai after having been unsuccessfully nominated in 1952 for his performance in The Lavender Hill Mob. He was nominated in 1958 for the Academy Award for Best Writing, Screenplay based on material from another medium, for his screenplay adapted from Joyce Carey's novel The Horse's Mouth. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars in 1977. He received an Academy Honorary Award for Lifetime Achievement in 1980. In 1988, he received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor for Little Dorrit. He received the BAFTA Academy Fellowship Award for Lifetime Achievement in 1989. For his theatre work, he received an Evening Standard Award for his performance as T.E. Lawrence in Ross and a Tony Award for his Broadway turn as Dylan Thomas in Dylan. Guinness received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 1559 Vine Street on 8 February 1960. Guinness was appointed a Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, in 1955, and was knighted in 1959. In 1991, he received an honorary doctorate from Cambridge University. 3 years later, at age 80, he was appointed a Companion of Honor. Personal life. Guinness married the artist, playwright and actress Marilla Sylvia Solomon, 1914–2000. In 1938, in 1940, they had a son, Matthew Guinness, who later became an actor. The family lived at Steep Marsh in Hampshire. In his biography, Alec Guinness, The Unknown, Gary O'Connor alleges that Guinness was arrested and fined 10 guineas, £10 and 50 pence, for a homosexual act in a public lavatory in Liverpool in 1946. Guinness is said to have avoided publicity by giving his name to police and court as Herbert Pocket, the name of the character he played in Great Expectations. The allegation was not made until April 2001, 8 months after his death, when a BBC News article claimed that Guinness was in fact bisexual and that he had successfully kept his sexuality private from the public eye, as his closest friends and family members also knew he had sexual relationships with men. Piers Paul Reed, Guinness's official biographer, doubts that this incident actually occurred. He believes that Guinness was confused with John Gielgud, who was notoriously arrested for such an act in 1953. Religious conversion. While serving in the Royal Navy, Guinness had planned to become an Anglican priest. However, in 1954, while he was filming Father Brown in Burgundy, Guinness, who was in costume as a Catholic priest, was mistaken for a real priest by a local child. Guinness was far from fluent in French, and the child apparently did not notice that Guinness did not understand him, but took his hand and chatted while the two strolled. The child then waved and trotted off. The confidence and affection the clerical attire appeared to inspire in the boy left a deep impression on the actor. When their son was ill with polio at the age of 11, Guinness began visiting a church to pray. A few years later, in 1956, Guinness converted to the Roman Catholic Church. His wife followed suit in 1957 while he was in Sri Lanka filming The Bridge on the River Kwai, and she informed him only after the event. Every morning, Guinness recited a verse from Psalm 143, "Cause me to hear your loving kindness in the morning." Death. Guinness died on the 5th of August 2000, from liver cancer, at Midhurst in West Sussex. He had been receiving hospital treatment for glaucoma, and had recently also been diagnosed with prostate cancer. He was interred at Petersfield, Hampshire. His widows, Lady Guinness, died of cancer at Petersfield 2 months after her husband, also aged 86, and was interred alongside her husband of 62 years. Autobiographies and biography. Guinness wrote 3 volumes of a best-selling autobiography, beginning with Blessings in Disguise in 1985, followed by My Name Escapes Me in 1996, and A Positively Final Appearance in 1999. He recorded each of them as an audiobook. Shortly after his death, Lady Guinness asked the couple's close friend and fellow Catholic, novelist Piers Paul Reed, to write Guinness's official biography. It was published in 2002.